Picking the wrong lead generation tool can literally destroy your business, because after sending over 1.5 million cold emails per month and booking thousands of sales calls in the process, I can tell you that your database is everything. If your data is outdated, you're going to land in spam. If your contacts are wrong, you're wasting money reaching out to the wrong people who will never respond. Yet most people don't even realize their tool is failing them until it's too late. That's why in this video, I'm going to walk you through a head-to-head comparison between two of the most popular tools available right now, Apollo and Prospeo. We'll cover data accuracy, integrations, list control, and everything in between. That way you'll know exactly which platform will help you generate leads for your business. But before we jump into comparing specific features, you need to understand what's happening in the lead generation space right now. You see, Apollo has been the go-to database for years. With over 275 million contacts, it's what most people used to default to when building lead lists. But here's the thing, back in March 2025 or so, LinkedIn actually banned Apollo scrapers, as well as a bunch of other lead generation scrapers. And since then, Apollo's data has been slowly getting questionable at best, which means there's an opening for new tools to step in. And that's exactly where Prospeo comes into play. Now, Prospeo used to just be an email enrichment tool. A lot of people would just use it out of clay, and that was pretty much the most you heard of it. But then they launched a completely new interface that now competes directly with Apollo. And since Prospeo wasn't one of the scrapers banned by LinkedIn, it's been getting a lot of traction. So now you've got two strong options when it comes to lead list building. One that's been the industry standard for years, and one that's been quickly gaining ground. Well, most people have no idea which to choose. And that's why I'm going to be comparing all of their major features in this video today. This way you can make the choice yourself. Now, one of the most important things when it comes to choosing a lead list building tool is its data accuracy. Because even if it has the best new features, if the emails bounce, phone numbers are wrong, or job titles are outdated, none of that really matters. And coverage is just as important. Because if the tool doesn't have enough contacts to actually scrape, chances are you'll be leaving a huge percentage of leads on the table and losing out on potential customers. So you need a database that's both accurate and comprehensive. Now let's see how Apollo and Prospeo stack up. So opening up Apollo here, you can see right off the bat with zero filter set, there's 234 million contacts, which is pretty significant. You have the option to jump into email status and choose only those that are verified, user managed, update required, and so on. But with Apollo, ever since we started using it, we've always ensured that we're verifying emails after. I'm not even necessarily sure what their verification system looks like, but from what I've seen over the past 3 years, it just hasn't really been that reliable. So we've always made sure to run all of our lists through something like Million Verifier to ensure that the emails are deliverable. If we wanted to do a simple search just to compare, we could do maybe founders with verified emails in the United States. And let's look at financial services. So we've got roughly 13.2 thousand contacts at this point. Now we'll jump over to Prospeo so we can see here, if we do the same, we'll go job title, founder, location, United States, financial services, and we've got around 13,000 in this case. So fairly similar comparatively. One of the cool features though I've seen here is that you can actually break it down by whether or not the contact has a work email that's verified and or a mobile number that's verified. So it kind of prioritizes both here rather than just email, which I find Apollo really prioritizes on their end. The other thing too is like I've done calling with Apollo data, not the greatest. And then with Prospeo data, like absolutely swear by it. The one interesting thing too with Prospeo on their data accuracy, this was actually mentioned by the founder, is that they refresh their data every single 7 days, whereas the industry norm with other platforms, something like 30 to 90 days. So if people are consistently changing roles, things like that, you're constantly gonna get the most accurate information when using Prospeo. They also run SMTP style checks, have spam trap detection and honeypot detection. And then on top of that, they actually run every single one of the leads through bounce ban, which is interesting as well. I've never really seen a lead list building platform integrate with one of the verification tools that we use on a day-to-day basis like Prospeo does. Like I'd mentioned, with Apollo, we've always taken the leads from Apollo and pushed them over to Million Verifier. So it'll be interesting to see if these can be run without it. Now, having accurate data is just one part of the equation, because if a lead generation tool can't integrate with your CRM, your sending platform, or your enrichment tools, It's only going to cost you more time and money exporting all of that data manually. So the more native integrations a platform has, the smoother obviously your workflow becomes, which means you spend less time on the busy admin style work and more time actually booking calls. And with that being said, let me show you what both platforms have to offer. So with the Apollo, pretty much ever since we've been using it, we've always either exported it as a CSV manually, so just using this CSV export feature, or scraped with some sort of external scraper. Don't tell Apollo that. But they also have integrations here where you can add it to a sequence or send email with AI. I think both of these are just connecting with Apollo's native sequencer, which do not recommend using. On top of that, you can see here they also connect to Salesforce, HubSpot, Pipedrive, Zoho, Outreach, Greenhouse, a couple other platforms I haven't really heard of. So that feature is there. I've also tried using Apollo via API and webhook and stuff like that, and I just found it was so slow and consistently throttled that it was never really worthwhile using. So we just kind of stuck with the CSV export and did it all manually that way, which was a bit of a pain in our workflow. Now with Prospeo, they're very API first and focus on a lot of their integrations. You can tell they were kind of built for agencies just by seeing a few of the platforms here that they integrate with. So you can see they have Outreach, SalesLoft, Lemlist, SmartLead, Instantly, HubSpot, Salesforce, and then even coming soon, Clay. That's going to be fantastic. They already integrate with Clay via the waterfall enrichment and things like that, but you can see here soon they're going to be natively within Clay, Zapier, N8N, and Make, which I imagine will allow for a lot of cool native functionalities. And then you can see here too, you can just natively push to your CRMs or cold outreach software directly from the list, which is awesome. Now, if you're interested in trying out Prospeo for yourself and using all of these new features that we've covered, you can just click the link in the description below. Prospeo, I think, is quickly becoming one of the most popular lead generation tools, at least amongst agencies, specifically because of how good the data is and the API first integration. So if you're looking for a lead list building tool that's built specifically with your interests in mind, try it out with the link below. Now, this next part is something almost nobody talks about when comparing lead databases, and that's list control and some tools that you need for scale. Because once you move past a few thousand emails per month, your biggest risk isn't bad copy or bad targeting. It actually becomes operational mistakes. With Apollo, you end up recontacting the same people. Maybe you need to set up your own database, whether it's in Clay or Supabase or something like that. And it just becomes a major pain to ensure that you're only spending money on the leads that you actually haven't contacted previously. And most databases, as much as you could jump into lists and stuff like that in Apollo, don't really try to protect you from that. So what you'd have to do in Apollo is either build out a list. You can add to list here. And then when you build out your next list, you'd essentially have to exclude the previous list or choose net new. So just ensuring that you're not using the ones that have been previously saved, which is fine, but not great. The alternate would be taking a list of all of the domains of the companies you've previously reached out to and dropping them in the exclusion list here in Apollo. Now with Prospeo, they've done something pretty interesting. So you can drop an exclusion list, if your client gives you a block list or something from their CRM, that's fantastic. But then also you can hide everybody that's been exported in the past as well. So this saved in Prospeo would be very similar to Apollo's list feature, where you could save a list and then exclude that list from a future export. But then this one actually allows you to hide all people that are exported in the past. So basically just eliminate anybody that you've ever pulled before, which is awesome. That way you're only ever paying for new data, especially if it's going to be a list that you're going to be running repeatedly and a persona or a segment that you constantly want to refresh. The beauty with this feature is that in the end, you can actually use Prospeo as your core database to work out of. With other databases, obviously, you're going to have to repay for every single lead that you export, whether you've exported for them or not. But with Prospeo, you could almost work out of it as a core database, because if you know for a fact that you're not consistently paying for the same leads, this can almost be a host database where once you've purchased something, you own it. And this is your database. It's not something that you're essentially renting, if that makes sense. And then, with that, obviously, there's a compounding effect, right? Every single time you build out a lead list for a client, the database that you own, that you've paid for, is actually just growing consistently. Now, even if a tool has all the right features, it doesn't really matter if you can't figure out how to use it. Because a complicated UI means you waste time scrolling, trying to find basic features, which is never fun. And a steep learning curve means your team needs to spend days on training before they can even build their first list, which slows down your entire operation. On top of that, if the platform is clunky or unintuitive, you're just going to make mistakes or waste money. You're building the wrong lists, applying the wrong filter, or you miss important features entirely. So ease of use isn't really just about convenience. It directly impacts how fast you can start sending emails, booking calls, and making money. So how do Apollo and Prospeo compare? Well, let's dive into that right here. So I will say that Apollo has come a long way since I first started using them. They've made things a lot more intuitive, so I will give them that. The one thing is they just have incredible feature bloat, in my opinion. Like when it comes to what I actually use it for, or what most outbound agencies actually use it for, there's like 1 or 2 tabs out of the whole platform that I actually end up leveraging. For the most part, I'm just jumping into the people and companies tab. I don't use data enrichment, don't really use lists, to be honest. Definitely don't use their sequencer. We don't jump into any sort of like workflows, analytics, or any of the other tabs. And then when it comes to actually like building out the lists themselves, we definitely use the majority of these main filters like time and role, personas, email status, job titles, company, location, number of employees, industry sometimes, keywords all the time, but everything else like signals, emails open, job postings, funding, revenue, technology, scores, buying intent, all of that stuff, even education, is just fluff. Like none of that is actually going to help you build your list. None of that is going to give you the scale that you need to actually get good results with outbound. It's all almost there just as kind of like a marketing tool. Like they're making themselves look like they're ahead of their times by bringing in all of these data points, which aren't really accurate and don't really help you drive any sort of revenue. On top of that, they brought in some AI features, maybe trying to compete with Clay a little bit, and it really is just missed the mark. And then when you jump into Prospeo, you can see they've really just built the tool with agencies in mind. They've got the people tab and the company tab, which I mentioned, we use all the time. They've got pretty much all of the filters that you need, specifically name, company, job title, location, contact details, industry, keywords. I haven't tested out their buying intent. I will say, I can't really speak to that yet. Revenue, always a little dicey, but it's nice that they added it, at least if it's somewhat public, there's use cases. This is one of the tools that I think that they have really hit the mark on, selection per company. So if you're building out a list of like enterprise sales teams, or in the finance space, maybe like managing directors, where there's like 10 to 15 different people with the same job title, and you only want, maybe 2-3 people per company, you can actually add max people per company, which is fantastic. I believe Apollo had this ages ago. I don't know if it disappeared in the UI or something, but it was super beneficial because if you're building a list of 1,000 people or 5,000 people, you don't want 500 of them to be from the same company. So this is huge. Technologies, I haven't tested this out admittedly, but I think this could be pretty decent. So I would try it out yourself, but then everything else is very necessary. So like time and current role, time and current company, founded year, headcount growth, job postings, fantastic, headcount by department, fantastic. All of those are very relevant tools and things that you can actually use to make quality lists. And then if we jump into everything else, it's pretty much just the integrations. You have access to the API, you have CRM enrichment, you have your CSV enrichment, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't try to be all of these different things. It literally just is an all-in-one lead list building tool. Given that they focus heavily on their API, you can also see that there's a ton of analytics that they share with you. So you can stay on top of how much you're spending via credits on other platforms and where those are all coming from, which is pretty cool, I thought. And you can break that down by billing period or just monthly range. One thing I also thought was killer within the Prospeo UI is this recent search here. So whenever you build out a search criteria, you can just go back to that criteria and build off of it, or change things up, re-export it, whatever you need to do, it's all there. So again, it's just building off that idea that this isn't like get your leads and jump kind of situation like Apollo is, where you're really just like exporting it and then coming back and it's like this new experience every single time. They've kind of built this experience where you can build off of your previous searches, build off your previous lists that you've built, and really just not waste any time. And finally, that brings us to cost, because at the end of the day, you need to know which platform gives you the best ROI. And it's pretty simple. If you look at Apollo here, you can see if you jump into monthly billing, you jump onto their biggest plan, $149 a month, you get around 6,000 credits per month. And because one credit equals one email, that's only really 6,000 emails per month, which is nowhere near what you need to hit the scale necessary to get results. Now, if you jump over to Prospeo, you can see here they offer a plan that's $249 per month, which is roughly 15,000 credits per user per month, which I'd say is a lot more reasonable. Now, when you break it down at $149 per month at 6,000 credits on Apollo, that's about $2.50 per credit. And then if you jump over to Prospeo, $249 a month at around 15,000 credits is closer to $1.70 per credit. Now, the other thing to factor in too with Prospeo is that they refresh their data every single 7 days, which means you're paying for more accurate information rather than with Apollo, where you'd probably put a bunch of money in, maybe get a bunch of stuff that is a little bit older, not necessarily the most up to date. And then again, you have to factor in the fact that Prospeo runs every single one of their leads through BounceBand, which is a perk in and of itself. So if you want a bit of a breakdown of the pros and cons, sure, Apollo has been that trusty platform that we've used since day one. Ton of scrapers out there, things that can allow you to get the data for cheap. Con being that it's not the most up to date. It is getting a little dicey when it comes to pulling information from their platform. If you want to do it natively, it's going to be super expensive. The UI is a little clunky. They're trying to do way too much with the information. Every single person is using that data, which is making it, a little bit saturated. And it's just overall not the greatest tool if you want to use it as your core database that you're building out of. It's more of like a one-stop shop where you can go and grab leads when you need them, but you never really know if you're paying for things that you've already paid for in the past. And then on Prospeo's side, you can see they're very agency first. They've built their platform with outbound in mind. Honestly, I probably use about 80% of the filters that they've included here. Every single feature that they've ensured to include on the side is borderline essential, and they've added a few different key factors that I think are going to be a game changer when it comes to lists, like number of contacts per company. Fantastic. Their ability to ensure you're only paying for new exports, not those that you've exported before, which again allows you to kind of just use this as your host database and only pull those that you need to refresh or that you haven't exported in the past, which again is going to save you money. And then when you look at the integrations and the API and things like that, it just makes it really easy from a workflow perspective to just kind of slot it into what you're already doing. Rather than going from export CSV to import to your verification tool, to import to Clay, to export to your sequencer, it's kind of like this back and forth game with importing and exporting CSVs. In Apollo, Prospeo kind of nails that and just makes it this one continuous process between all of the platforms that you use natively. Now, choosing the right tool is only really one small part of the process, because you still need to build the right lists, write the right emails, and set up the right infrastructure to start booking calls. So if you want to see exactly how we implemented a complete cold email strategy to book 42 calls in just 1 month, watch this video next, and I'll see you there.